Now, before we get started, yes, so you know who I am and what we're going to be doing. This is, my name is Dan Scott, and I am motion graphics is definitely part of my life, but like a lot of people now, you end up being, it's hard to label yourself, you know. I kind of trained as a graphic designer, moved into web, now doing lots of motion graphics. I think there's a kind of like digital media designer. We all probably know it, right? Nobody's just doing one thing now. There are some people working in branding agencies, but even then now I'm doing a lot of training and I'm going into ad agencies that are real kind of like traditionalists, and they're like, geez, we're going to have to do some banner ads, you know, or we're going to have to do some video stuff because clients are finding, you know, there's a couple of things that have happened. One is that the tools, they used to be really expensive, right? And you know, to get into film, but you had to kind of buy that other Adobe package that nobody can afford. You had to have a really high spec Mac and lots of those sorts of things. But now you can go off and buy £700 laptop and be all of those things. Okay? My LinkedIn profile is the most kind of like, I change it depending on what I'm feeling like. Like I love UX at the moment. I love this kind of online UX stuff. Like, am I a UX designer? I like doing them all. Am I the best at all of them? No, but I'm pretty good at all of them. Okay, but kind of where I turn up, I'm like, yeah, I'm your UX designer, okay, or I'm your motion graphics artist, okay, or I'm your graphic designer doing your branding. It's pretty hard, right? So hopefully there's some people in here that are doing something else and kind of looking to maybe get into motion graphics. It's one of those things I remember looking at a long time. I didn't do it in school. We did kind of more traditional graphic design, and I saw motion graphics and I was like, I'd love to do that, but I never got a chance to get into it. And hopefully today, what my goal is to kind of show you, because it's one of those programs, if you open up After Effects, it's the scariest of all the programs. You might have all opened it going, too hard, okay? Because it is, there's codecs and all sorts of pixel ratios and square pixels and all sorts of stuff. It's not as hard as it seemed. It was. There was all sorts of things, PAL, NTSC, sort of weird line first rendering kinds of things. Now it's really easy, mainly because we have the internet, and a lot of stuff is delivered via that. Even if it's TV, it's still going via kind of like internet channels, type thing. So it means it's kind of standardized lots of bits, which is really, really good. And it's made it really helpful for us. So my goal is to make, for you to leave after this hour, to go, I'm going to go do a bit of that, because it doesn't seem so hard. It looks really cool. We'll talk a lot about pay scales. And so I was a freelancer, and I do freelance work as well as training. And, you know, as a motion graphics artist, I get to charge more, which is a nice thing, okay, because it's really specialized. There's a, whereas if I'm doing maybe some web design or graphic design, I'm competing a lot more, so my rates kind of reflect that. Motion graphics, animated type infographics, all those words get lumped together, they're all in this kind of zone, right? And I do get to charge more for it, which is really good. And what we'll try and do is a bit of questions and answers, you know, ask questions as we go in. It does though. But if you are thinking there, it's nerve-wracking to do it, it's nerve-wracking to do it as well, but if you have got questions, you want to do it during, do it. But at the end there, I'll make sure we give ourselves like 10 minutes at the end to do a proper Q&A. And if I wrap it on, yeah, I'll try and keep time. So let's get started. After Effects. After Effects is definitely, can you hear me up the back? Or is it a bit quiet? You can hear me okay? Yeah. Yeah, the lighting is that, isn't it? Looks like there's nothing I can do about it. We'll see how we go. So, I know what we can do. No, we'll just go. All right, so let's get started. The first thing is when you open up this one, it's probably the most stressful because there are so many panels everywhere, right? And File New is not File New, right? You go to File New, and there is absolutely nothing in this File New thing that actually starts a project. Okay? That thing there, you can start folder, you can start, you can just see that one, start a project. Okay? Whenever you open a document, every time you open it, you get a brand new thing ready to go. It's like an InDesign document with no pages. Okay, you can't not have After Effects open without it being all ready to go. So it's ready to go. What you need is your first page. And think of pages, they've called them in here called compositions. So can you see at the top there? Look, it says new composition. Hey, we're not going to use much up there, surely not. Okay, click on new composition. That is absolute first thing to start with After Effects. And then you get this scary thing, right? You go here, and you go, holy crap. Okay, NTC, PAL, HD, DV, you've got cables, you've got pixel ratios. This is the magic one right there. Always use that one. 99.9 of all my work is always go to this. HDTV, 1080, 25 frames per second. If you don't know what all that means, okay, a nice little hint. The 1080 is the height. Okay, if you've got 720, it's the height of that way. Okay, old school stuff gets smaller. Okay, and the higher quality it is, they always talk about the height, they never talk about the width. Okay, and if you're in the business, if you walk into a meeting and you say, I'm going to do something that's 1080, okay, they will know you're a newbie and you don't know what you're doing. You've got to say 1080. Okay, that's 1080, you've got to say 1080. Okay, you say 1080p. Okay, then you know what you're doing. So I'm going to click on this one, and everything else, other than the time, okay, you leave alone. Square pixels, don't worry about it. Everything else is there, good and defaulting. Duration here is 5 seconds, background color, we're going to click OK. First page, job done. Okay. Now we're going to add some type. All right, so we'll grab the type tool, click once. Okay, I'm using not my machine, so I'm going to blame any Academy class, right? So, if you ever get that, okay, one of the big things that will catch out when you're learning is, can you see that? Everything disappears. It's because I've got caps lock on. That's one of the weird things that people get called out about. So make sure caps lock's off when you're working. Okay, so what I'm going to do, oh, hey. I'm not sure who did that, but nice. Cool, so we're going to do our first little animation, and it's really simple, right? So we're going to start it off screen, lovely. Okay, we're going to twirl down this. Thank you. And we're going to go to position. Okay, and we're going to set this thing here. This little stopwatch, that is your best friend in After Effects. This thing will start. Okay, I can fix that. I hope. Tell me when I'm gone low enough. Oh, wow. Has that always been gone? Yeah, okay. You're being very polite. Can you see the top? Yay! All right. So we've got, I've done some type, I've put it over here, and now we're looking at this. Now you can actually see the stopwatch, right? The stopwatch is the biggest thing. There's a stopwatch on every single thing in After Effects. And essentially what it does is you stop watching, you're starting to watch. Okay, you're like, okay, now go. Okay, and as soon as you set the stopwatch, After Effects is recording. Okay, and what happens is, see this little diamond here? This little diamond says, at this time, okay, here's your little timeline. Okay, at 0 seconds, I'm going to be at this position. And then what we can do is we can slide along, say after 1 second. Okay, watch this. If I drag it across, hold shift so it snaps across. Okay, can you see it added the keyframe for it? Okay, so wherever your timeline is at 1 second, it's added a keyframe for me. Now we'll get our first little bit of animation. Okay, super simple. Hit spacebar. Okay, so that's the basics. Okay, now what you want to do is you want to make it pretty. Does anybody do that? You do that in PowerPoint, right? And it's got this kind of like PowerPoint feel to it. It just kind of moves across the screen. And what I'm going to try and show you is the tricks for like motion graphics glory, where you can make something quite quick and easy, but make it look really pretty in After Effects really quickly. Okay, After Effects, that's very PowerPointy. Okay, so the first thing in your toolbox to be an awesome motion graphics designer, okay, is everything that moves, you're going to add something called easing to it. Easing or velocity, okay, it's just the way it moves. Okay, it's at the moment it's just kind of every frame kind of jumping across. What we're going to do is we're going to select both our little keyframes, both go blue. We're going to right-click one of them. We're going to go down to keyframe velocity, okay, and all you need to do is change this. The magic number is 75. I made up 75.
I've taught lots of people, so lots of people use 75. It's just kind of like how it affects it. You can lower it down or raise it up depending on the feeling. They changed the little hourglasses, but check out the feeling of this now. You get a sense of it? Okay, instead of it being that kind of like PowerPointy thing where it just kind of like trudges across, this is the stuff where people self-teach. They go off and do a project, and then they sit down afterwards and they go, shit. Okay, it's because they haven't done any easing. They haven't kind of like played with the kind of movement and the flow. And I know it's not a big thing. I don't know, that's kind of for me some of those nice things that kind of like start easing things across. So that's number one of being awesome in motion graphics. Okay, the next one is motion blur. Okay, it's one of the kind of like second things we can do to make things look awesome. At the moment, it's kind of crystal clear all the way across. But what happens in live action when people are moving really fast in front of us or on the TV, they start blurring, and that looks really nice when you're doing it with type. Icons, logos, motion graphics. Okay, and what you need to do is you turn this thing on here. This thing here is called Enables Motion Blur. If I turn them on, it does absolutely nothing. Okay, that's the weird thing about it. You turn it on globally for your whole composition. Then you go down here and you pick which layer you turn it on for. Because sometimes you don't want it on all the layers. So if I click on him, okay, can you see he's kind of blurry there? And look how pretty this looks. See, doesn't it look nicer when it's kind of got a bit of blurry going? Yeah, there you go. That's why I just did a little feedback. Yeah, good. Okay, so easing and motion blur, just turning those things on an average animation are kind of like the keys to start making things look pretty. Now the next thing everybody wants when it comes to motion graphics, for no good reason other than it looks cool, is a vignette. Everybody know what a vignette is? It's kind of like frosting around the outside. Everything looks better in motion graphics because what we're doing is we're taking inanimate objects and trying to give it a bit of real life things, like the inertia, like easing. Easing is we're kind of studying it from, if you've never gone into motion graphics or animation before, go and look. I think it's the 10 or 12 principles of animation from Walt Disney, right? And there's lots of things that are really helpful for doing motion graphics and infographics. The first one's easing. When I have to run over here, okay, I don't start at like my full speed. I have to kind of build up speed, and when I come to a stop, I kind of slow. That's the easing, right? Motion blur is another thing, faking reality when things move fast. Okay, they get all blurry. The next thing we're going to look at, and the other thing is vignette. It's kind of like adding in this kind of like old school cinema style thing. It doesn't need to be. After Effects is beautiful, it's crisp, it's clear. So we're going to try to add this thing to make it look, a little bit more real. To do it, what we're going to do is we're going to add a layer. Okay, so we're going to get a new, and this thing here, layer new, solid is just a big box. Okay, so it's like a layer in Photoshop, but it's going to be filled with white in this case. And what I'm going to do, it's going to be 100 pixels. I want it to match the make comp size, that's the one. Awesome. Click OK. So it's just a big white box. Layers work the same like Photoshop and Illustrator and InDesign if you've used those, is that this guy at the top needs to be underneath. There you go. Okay, and now, there you go. What color was my type? White. It's going to cause a tiny problem. Okay, let's pick a lovely color for my font. Okay, so we've got a white background now, we've got motion blur, we've got easing, let's add a vignette. Now there's a couple of ways, there's really hard ways. If you go into YouTube after this and you're like, oh, I'm going to do that vignette thing that Dan showed me, you're going to find lots of crappy ways that are going to take ages. There's a new way, and it's really cool, and it's really easy. It's under Window, and it's under your effects panel. Okay, the effects panel is really cool, it's massive. There's loads of effects in After Effects, and that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to show you how to get started, and then show you how to leverage the effects to get really good. And tiny screen. Okay, and here there's one called Lumetri. Lumetri, there it is. Lumetri Color. Okay, it's a plugin that's in the later versions of After Effects. This thing here is the do-it-all. This is the thing I use for about 1 million different things. If I add it to this white solid layer here, it doesn't do much, okay, but I get this effects controls. So yeah, apply the effect, and then you get these controllers over here. Now we're not going to go through in this one, but Lumetri has a really great can you see this basic correction? Say you're doing using After Effects just to kind of fix up the video. You've got something that's a bit crappy, so you want to kind of like style it. This thing in here has all the things that people know and love from like photography, white balance, exposure, contrast. Okay, so that's a cool thing. But what I want it for is just this guy down here, vignette. Okay, and amount, I'm going to drag it to the left. Go. There he is there, frosty edges. That's all it does. But you get that kind of feeling of motion graphics. Have you ever seen show reels online and things doing it? You need easing, you need motion blur, and there needs to be this kind of like fake vignette. Mine's not a bit strong at the moment there, but okay, so those three little things can help you get started. Now let's look at anticipation. So we've got a few of the things now. We did those. We did vignette. We did motion blur. We did easing. Now we're going to look at anticipation. Anticipation is really good for inanimate objects. Okay, so you're in After Effects, and you want to add. It's a big type thing. Okay, you might be doing an intro for lots of websites. I do motion graphics for now, and it's just that whole like voiceover of woman speaking about the product for this new startup company, and it has text animation and logos and things sliding around, and it's kind of just explaining what the product does. So a lot of the one of the other rules, it's called anticipation. It's Walt Disney one of the I think it's the seventh rule of animation, anticipation. What it's really good for, what it does is, if I need to go this way, say I'm on the academy class type, if I need to go this way, I have to put my weight on my back foot, so I go back a bit. Forward to anticipation, right? Everybody knows which way I'm going to run because I start doing this. Okay? Or if I'm going to throw a punch, I have to kind of go backwards before I go forwards. Okay? You apply those techniques to inanimate objects, it makes things look really pretty. And there is no reason for it. The type doesn't need to go back before it goes forward, but it just looks cool. Okay? And so let's look at, say, something like that. I'm going to try and let's do this one. So this thing's going to slide in. Playing along, it's going to pause for a little while, and then it's going to head down. Okay, but instead of going down first, it's going to go up a little bit. And it just looks kind of nice. I'm going to try and make it look nice with you watching me. So I'm going to click on Academy Class. I'm going to go to my position. Okay, the stopwatch is already on. I don't need to turn it on again because it was used earlier on. What I'm going to do is, can you see this little guy here? This one here forces a keyframe in. Okay, if you drag it, it will add one, but I don't want it to move. I just want it to stay between here and all the way along here. I don't want you to move, so I've forced in a keyframe. Then I want it to, maybe after a little bit of time, I'm going to drag it up. You'll see it automatically makes a keyframe, perfect. And then after maybe this long, I'm going to get it to paste down. And we're going to see by default what it looks like. You'll get a sense of it. Not my best work. Okay, so I practiced this even before you guys got here. And I was like, yeah, just 1 second, that'll do it. No. So I'm going to open it out a little bit. Let's give it a play. So it's coming in, it's waiting, and it goes up. Kind of works. You get a sense of it? It's kind of working. Now, we're going to move into something slightly more advanced now, because if you are, like, we used to add some easing to these, and we put 75%, and Dan said it was good. It works most of the time. Now I've got a little bit of things that I want to play around with. Okay, so what I'm going to do is look at the graph editor. Now, be careful. This is where it looks scary. Graph editor, click. Okay, that's what my easing looks like. Okay, when I put 75% in, it's doing that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom a little bit. Okay, I'm going to release them out. What I want to do is I want it to do this. You might not kind of see it, but it's kind of upside down. Can you see it's going to, ooh, you can't see the bottom? All right, you're very polite. Come on. Tell me when you can see it. Okay, cool. So see this little guy, this graph down the bottom here? Okay, he was kind of all bent out of shape. I've made it so it's a little bit nicer, and we're going to test to see whether it looks pretty. Better. Okay, now I'm going to go back into here, and I promised myself I wouldn't spend ages doing this, but I'm totally going to. I want you to be all impressed by how good I am and how good it looks. We're getting there. Tighten them up a bit. You getting a feeler for it? Yeah, cool. So it's all about adding this kind of realism to type, to kind of communicate things. So we've done this, and if you had to guess how heavy that thing was, based on that, you'd say it's pretty light. You can play around with this timing. It's amazing how type affects differently by just playing with how long it takes to go up versus how long it takes to keep going in inertia. Like the font might be a lot heavier than it is, or conveyed from me, because when you're dealing with, especially with type, okay, especially things like infographics, when you're trying to kind of display data and stuff, you can infer kind of results through the language that you communicate. And this one here, because he's got motion blur on, he looks nice, we've got easing, we've got vignettes, all looking very good. All right. Let's stop. Okay, and let's save him to the desktop. And let's open up a new project. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at is just some more kind of effects, just so that we can get you, what are we doing? Infographics, what time are we at? Cool. Yeah, let's go see what we type. So, we've done some basic animation like that. And to be honest, like, if somebody asked me to do a job, 70% of it is just that. Logos move in, type moves in, switches out with other type, add some background music, and there's a lot of that going on. Okay, to kind of communicate, and people like those types of things. Now, the other things, okay, I want to show you some kind of like 3D-ish bits just to show you some nice things, and Power After Effects. So remember, new composition. Of these ones, which one was it? 1080. There you go. Not 1080, 1080. But yes. Things will change. At the moment we're at 1080, that's full HD. 4K is kind of coming around. You can buy GoPros that do that now, and that'll help, you know, but that's probably 4 or 5 years away before that's the standard, okay? But luckily it defaults to it, so you can't go wrong. It's gonna be 5 seconds long, good work. Okay, and I'm gonna make this down here. And what are we doing? Swingy type. Okay, so I'm gonna make my composition white at the background. Yep. I thought it was a good idea to stack these up so I could stand up. I'm not really standing up. I'm just kind of hunched over it now. The mouse is too low. Okay, so if I type in this one here and I'll put in every inch of me wants to pick a new font, download a new font, play with the styling, but I've got to kind of speed through this, I guess, for the show. I hate Myriad. I don't hate it, but it's the default one, right? I can't help myself. Let's just pick a bit of a different weight. So I'm just copying and pasting these layers. Caps lock, remember, can cause you problems. This is my big long name. Okay, and we'll go down to all I got. Okay, so first thing you need to do when you're doing, what we're going to do now is look at a bit of 3D and cameras and bits and pieces, and we're going to get this type of kind of like swing down to give it a bit of more emotion. So what we're going to do is we're going to start at the top here, and the first thing we need to do is this thing here. It's called the pan behind tool. You see in the brackets there it says anchor point tool, because if I start rotating this now, the anchor point's down the bottom and it's going to be in the wrong spot. So I'm going to grab him, try and see my keyboard, get him to stick at the top there, because I want it to swing from the top rather than the middle, or by the default, the bottom. Cool. So we'll start with Daniel at the top. Okay, so what I'd like to do is, we're going to turn this thing on called 3D. See this little cube here? This little cube here, if I turn them on, they become 3D space. Because without them, let's have a look. If I twirl this down and I look at transform, without it, they have some effects, right? But if I turn 3D, where is he? 3D off, you see it's just cut down. So 3D gives me an extra dimension, okay, the Z space. And what I'm looking for is, not that one. Okay, I'm looking for orientation. I'm looking for you. There we go. Can you see this? Cool. So when you turn those little cubes on, everything gets an extra dimension. You can make things start 3Ding. What I'm going to do is start this guy up here. Okay, and he's going to, after a few seconds, swing down. Actually, first of all, the stopwatch, move along a little bit. Okay, then he's going to swing down and past. Then there. I'm kind of guessing it. I did practice it, so I'm hoping it's better than my last. You see what I'm doing? I'm setting little keyframes for it to kind of come forward, back, forward. And then maybe in this last one here, it can be completely fat. Nice. So let's have a look. Fingers crossed. It's okay. Okay, I'm going to right click it. I'm going to go to keyframe velocity, and this is the thing we looked at easing before. Okay, I'm going to make it 75 and 75 because it seems to work all the time. We're going to make it a little bit nicer. You see that? Just like I felt like it got like 100 times better, right, with the little easing in there. Thank God you're all watching. All right, and what's the last thing? So we did easing. What's the other thing we do to make things look awesome? Motion blur. Everything looks better if it's moving. It has motion blur, and you need to turn it on twice. This enables for the whole thing, and you need to turn it on per layer. Okay, and now we're going to go, yeah, it looks kind of cool. So what's really cool about it is you've done it once, right? Now what we can do is we can go down here, select these guys. Actually, I'm going to time them so they all kind of like, which tool am I on? Grab that tool. Move this along, because I want them to kind of like start after each other, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all these keyframes, copy. I'm going to slide along to here. Okay, I'm going to paste them. And then I'm going to slide along here. Let's go. Actually, yeah, and paste them. Okay, so hopefully now we've got all these things. You can see how once you've done one thing, you can kind of apply it. And like whenever I do the swing thing, because I do it loads, people are like, oh, I want that in my animation. They don't, you know, it doesn't really work with their animation, but they've seen it and they want me to do it, so I add it to it. I just go into another project, copy the keyframe, paste it back in, do some slight adjustments because of the size, but often once you've done it once and you spend all that time in getting things sliding in, you get to reuse and, you know, kind of, yeah, redo it all. So I'm going to time them all a little better maybe. And they go whoop, 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 whoop. Cool, huh? It's better. A little bit. So what we can start doing is something called parenting now. So you can do an animation and then get it to follow another animation. Okay, adding a bit of complexity, which is not that complex. Okay, it's not that hard. Watch this. If I go, I would like my middle name. Can you see here there's this list called parent. I want you to follow Daniel, please. And Scott, you go and follow the middle name. Okay, and whoa. Okay, not what I was hoping for. And I could go and fix it, and I really want to do it because I want to show you how good I am, but we're going to move on. But you get the sense of it, right? They're kind of following each other. I know what I've done wrong there, but I'm going to have to go back like 5 minutes and get started again. But just so you know, once you've done things, you can get things to parent to other things. You've done this really complicated animation, you can get other things just to follow them along and carry on, and you can do some really cool stuff like that. Okay, so I'm going to hit save on him. And the last thing you remember, you need to, what's the last thing that we did that adds no value to it? Vignette. Okay, you've got to add a vignette. We're not going to because you can imagine the frosty stuff around the outside, but those are the things. Easing, okay, motion blur, and a vignette. Now next on my little list, how are we doing for time? We're doing pretty good. All right. Swinging text. Let's look at infographics. So that's a big thing I do now. I go into like, I was in Accenture. I was in Accenture, and I was doing, you know, they do lots of presentations. Okay, we just want you to do motion graphics inside of PowerPoint. I'm like, oh, okay. So what they're doing is their presentations. They want that level of they want to display the data, but sex it up and show it off and show how professional they are. Okay, now, and that's probably the really cool thing about motion graphics at the moment. Is it used to be the home of if you were going to do motion graphics, you had to go work in either cinema or broadcast. There was no other place to live. Okay, you either did that or that. Now be a freelancer and still do graphic design stuff, or web design stuff, or painting, or whatever else, and do motion graphics. There's lots of like little jobs like this where I'm showing people how to do data displays inside PowerPoint. Okay? And say videos or intros or YouTube channels, those sorts of things. There's lots of little extra bits to work around. And what we'll do is, before we finish, I'll make sure I go through about how to get started with your show reel and places to get work and get started. Yeah, so let's look at some infographics. Infographics is one of those words where people call and they say, we want to do infographics. Okay? Like, it's displaying data really, but people just want to do, they kind of want to do motion graphics and display data. It's kind of the same thing when people come to it, like, let's do infographics. I'm like, okay, cool, so we need to learn After Effects, like what's that? Okay, so I go off and teach them infographics, but really what they want to do is kind of animate data. Now, where you get your stuff from, it doesn't matter. If you're, like, I'm really good at Illustrator, so I often draw everything in Illustrator and bring it in and then animate it in After Effects. You can draw in After Effects. Say you've never used any Adobe product before and you're going to get started in one, you can do it in After Effects. If you're a Photoshop person, you can use that as well. It's not as good. Vector is lovely, but you can totally use Photoshop to create stuff and bring it in. It's literally copy and paste. Okay? And the cool thing about it as well is if you're using After Effects in Photoshop or Premiere, in Photoshop or Illustrator, using those files and you're bringing them in, if you update the PSDs, they come through and update as a lovely kind of flow. All right. The one warning I give you when you decide, like for your first job, you're like, oh, my boss, he's gonna love this. We're gonna do infographics. The problem is that you'll do it once, and then the next month you'll do it again, and then by the third month you want to kill yourself. Like, I am not animating data anymore. It was cool because you learned something and you made it all really pretty, but now every second day you're the guy or girl who's now, they want everything animated. They're like, that doesn't need to be animated. It was good for the annual report, but why are we doing it for Dave's presentation on Saturday to his mate, John? You end up becoming that person. So be careful when you do it to think, I'm going to show you some plugins after this. The plugins are great. Because if you sell them the plugin, then it's really easy to do. But if you hand do all this and it's beautiful and you spend ages easing, you're going to be the person that has to animate the data every week. I've done it, I know. All right. So let's make a new project. New. Oh, okay. Project. Save him. It's not my best work. Go. So, new project open, composition, new composition. We all know 1080. All right, HDTV 1080. And we're going to leave it all like that. That's 5 seconds. Great. So, After Effects, you can build stuff in here. It's not really designed to. Say you need to, because we're going to talk about motion graphics and animating data. Now, the secret is After Effects doesn't animate any data. What it does is it reveals it. Okay, so what happens is you create the end product, something else. It can be in Excel, it can be in Illustrator, it can be in Photoshop. You create it and it's finished and done. Say it's a line chart, bar chart, some sort of stacks of people to acknowledge how many people were involved in the test, some sort of graphic, and it's designed somewhere else, and all After Effects shows it to you in a pretty way. Okay? It doesn't actually create it. It just kind of reveals it with a mask. So we'll look at that. So let's have a look at bringing in some stuff. So I'm going to bring in some of my files. There we go. So I've got these two. Made in Photoshop. Are they the right size? They are. Awesome. So here's my background. Nice. Here's this guy here. If you're using Photoshop, if you go to File New, there is an option that says Film, and there will be HDTV 1080 25. Same with Illustrator. Same even in InDesign. Okay. You can totally build your graphics in InDesign. If you're an InDesign kind of master, go and do it in that. Just bring it into this as a PNG or a JPEG. Okay, but you can pick the right sizes before you get in here. Great. So all it is, can you see there's just a line that's already been made and the graphic in the background. So what we're going to do is reveal it. Okay, so we're going to select on this guy here. Now with masking, okay, if I have my rectangle selected and I have a layer selected, what happens is this. If I draw this, it ends up becoming a mask. Okay, so I'm going to start him about here, and you can kind of see what we're going to do, right? We're going to keyframe this mask. So under this mask layer here we've been given, we're going to click on the stopwatch. Remember, always looking for the stopwatches. We're going to set a little keyframe. And then after maybe about this long, I'm guessing, I'm going to grab my black arrow, double click it, and I'm going to drag it out to the first kind of point. Okay, then I'm going to need to pause for a little while. So I'm going to get it to maybe between here and here. I'm going to hit a keyframe so it's not doing anything. So it's moving here, stopping. Then about here, I'm going to double click it. Nice. Pause for a little bit. Out a while. Double click it. Come out. I'm not going to go through and do them all. I'll try and squeeze in as much as I can today. But you get the point, right? And it's a reveal. Okay, and you can six up the reveal. How do you six up the reveal? What's the two things? Well, what's the couple of things we can do? We've kind of got a vignette already. What's the other two things? What's that? Yeah, easing. Okay, I'm going to select all of these guys, right-click them. Keyframe velocity. What's the number I use? 75. It's total just what I decided one day, and it served me well. You might be 70, 80, 95. It ends up being too fast, but go lower, but don't go much higher. And ready. Yep. See that kind of nice little movement, the kind of easing there? What's the last thing we did? We've done the vignette, and what's the other one? Motion blur. Motion blur on, and how good are we? It's probably not moving fast enough to get the true effect of the motion blur. You can kind of see it. And I feel like sometimes when I show people that, like, is that infographics, is it? You're like, yep, infographics, you make it look pretty in something else, and then you reveal it. Okay? It might be bar graph. Say it's a bar graph along here. The bar graph already exists. All you do is draw a little box over it, make it really tiny, and then animate it up. You can animate it with a bounce. You can animate it with all sorts of other things to kind of give it some sort of life, but it is often just created first. There are ways of creating dynamic, data-driven stuff in After Effects. To do it yourself, you need to know quite a bit of, I'm not even sure, like, I think it's JavaScript that they use to do some of the scripting in here, but it's not worth the effort when there is lots of plugins that will kind of suck that data in and offer it up to you to use. And I'll show you a couple of good plugins in a second. What I want to do is just add a little bit more to this. Okay, I'm going to grab the ellipse tool. Big thing when you're learning is when I had that line selected and I drew a rectangle, it turned into a mask. It'll do the same if I want to draw a circle, but if I have nothing selected, okay, what will happen is, I'm going to move them along here, maybe about there. If I have no layers selected, it's not a mask anymore, it's like a dual action tool. It's just an ellipse. Okay, so if you have no layers selected, it won't mask it, it'll just actually make a circle. So I'm going to zoom in, zoom. Okay, let's look at some reusable stuff. So what I want to do is I want this thing to start, so he kind of comes along, and just before he gets there, I want this guy to start. And I'm going to grab I'm going to twirl it up, I'm going to hit S for scale, I'm going to hit my little stopwatch, and I'm going to start it off at 0. 0. Move it along a little bit. I'm going to make him nice, and I'm going to make him 110%. Whenever you are thinking animation, think about that in anticipation. Remember that going a bit further, like for things to go, maybe that thing that went down went up first. It's the same with scale. We're going to get things to go out past where it needs to go just to kind of come back in. We're not going to make it boing. We're going to make it kind of just expand just a tiny bit past to make it look cool. Ooh, do you see that thing moving? Okay, what Dan didn't do. Okay, I'm going to zoom out before I move everything around. That center of rotation is always in the middle, and that's going to cause you lots of, well, you'll get to here and you'll be like, Okay, just like before, we use this thing here called the pan behind tool. We drag him, we zoom in so we get it right in the middle. Click in here, zoom. Okay. And if you hold your control key down or command key on a Mac, it'll lock it into the center. Okay, now we're going to do the exact same thing. So we're going to start it at 0. 0. And we're going to get it to come up there. 100. Oh, no. Anticipation. A bit further past. And then get him to come down to the smaller one. 100. Okay, I might have to drag this whole thing off a little bit because the animation's playing without him. Black arrow, you. All of that. Are you ready? Zoom out a little bit. Oh. Underwhelming. Let's go you. Hold down Alt. Drag these guys a bit tighter. Even shorter. You get them there? All right. Plays along, goes a bit past, and just got a little bit of niceness to it when it grows. What we're going to do now is we're going to go copy, paste. So select the layer, copy, paste, and I'm going to move it along so when it gets to here, this guy starts going. Okay, I'm going to grab them and change the position to here. You can see once you get the first one going, you'll play around with timing. So it looks like it's growing, right? It does look like it's kind of doing something and making and coming out of thing. But actually, really what's happening is that the thing already existed. We've added a little bit of niceness to the top, a little ball thing up. But infographics are a lot of this. So say, I feel like if I go and teach at a university now, like one of their projects is always like an infographic where you have to stack lots of like stick men, like the guys in the toilet, like to display how many people were involved, the ball bottom for some reason. But like that already existed. Now, and then you show them by releasing a mask. Okay? It might be lots of other things. Now, in terms of infographics that are No. Bar chart's the same, pie chart's the same. There's a slightly different one for a pie chart where there's, we're not going to have time to go through it, but there's something called a radial wipe. So the pie chart already exists, and the radial wipe just kind of spins around. And you just tell it to start at 0 degrees and start finish at 270. Now, I'll give you my details at the end there, but I've got lots of links to lots of things. So if you've got questions after this, so we don't get time to get across, write them down now. I'll try and get them to the end. Otherwise, I'll send you links and stuff through the Designers Fiesta stuff. There's lots of things I want to show you about. Okay, so infographics. And questions about infographics. Who's thinking it's not going to work for us, or how would that apply to us? Oh wait, you saved your questions to the end. Yeah. Now, exporting. I want to do this before we get too close to the end. Okay, we're nearly finished. Exporting is super easy as well. That's the beginning bit. What file do I pick? What size should it be? I don't want to make it the wrong size. 1080. Can't go wrong. 1080p 25, job done. Exporting is much the same. Okay, when I go to this one here and I say, it's this thing here, it says add to Adobe Media Encoder queue. Okay, this is how to get it out of After Effects. If you're going into something like Premiere, so Premiere is like the big boy for video editing. Fine, I do a lot of video tutorials online. All the headshots of me talking, it's all done in Premiere. All the extra bits, like the little lower thirds with the type slides in, it says Daniel Scott Presenter, my logos and stuff, they all kind of pop in through After Effects. You do those little bits in After Effects, and you do the big stuff in Premiere. You can't really do one without the other, unless you're doing something really short. After Effects will cut and edit video, but once you get past 2 or 3 minutes, After Effects starts giving up. Okay? Premiere starts in. It's like using Photoshop to design a 100-page booklet. Whereas InDesign will do it easy peasy, Photoshop will grind to a halt, or Illustrator will grind to a halt quite quickly. So After Effects, little stuff, Premiere, the big kind of chunky stuff, editing stuff. And with Premiere, just import the After Effects file. No need to export, nothing. Okay? And when Premiere exports, it reaches back into After Effects, grabs its stuff, and produces it at the end. There's no point rendering it now to import into After Effects, into Premiere. Okay? But say I'm exporting this now and I need to send it to somebody, or it's finished. Okay, it's a nice little intro, the thing I've done for YouTube. I hit this. What happens is in the background, something called Adobe Media Encoder opens. I should have opened it before this class, just so it's doing its thing. Trust me, it's loading in the background. Okay? And the cool thing about it is that there is one default you need to choose. Hey. Okay? And so this guy here, Adobe Media Encoder, his whole job in the world is to render stuff. The cool thing about it is if you pass it to him to render, you can keep going and working in After Effects while it's spending ages rendering. Okay? There's only one setting you need to know in here, and it's called H264. Okay? H.264. And if you pick that, it's going to work perfectly. Okay? It's going to produce what's called an MP4. Okay? You've probably all seen MP4s. It's the most common one online now. It's the most shareable. Everyone's got a player for it. Remember the days of loading video and you had to kind of download codecs and ooh, look at the player thing and remember those, right? Pirated videos on it. Okay? But it was you get something oh geez, can I play this? Okay? Whereas now MP4s are great. Just play on everything. YouTube loves it. Vimeo loves it. Upload it to anything. Okay? You can dump it into your InDesign documents and export it as a PDF and it will play lovely. Okay? You can then import it into PowerPoint like we're doing with Accenture, and they are just kind of file, import video, stick it on there, and okay, the only thing you need to do is, where are you? Presets. He'll appear in there in a sec, and it's H.264. And then when it's ready, you hit the play button. We're just going to fade it out now, and that's it. It'll give you the perfect image for the right size, okay? Ready to go for any sort of distribution. Yeah. Okay, we've got enough time for some questions and stuff. Oh, one last thing, two things I want to quickly show you. This thing here, check out this. This is a plugin, you pay for it, it's not expensive, and it's for infographics. You have to maybe mute that. But can you see that? I'm showing you how to kind of get started with After Effects. What you'll find is, unlike say something like Photoshop, you go to the filters and you plug in the filter and you're like, awesome, I'm going to use plastic wrap. Okay, and you're like, it's kind of cool for your first time, and then you're like, these lens flare. It's like After Effects plugins are brilliant. That commercial stuff. So there's like these guys here sell them. Everybody sells plugins for After Effects, and it takes that kind of, especially for that animating data, it takes that level of, instead of you animating every single thing, you copy and paste something in and it makes it. So I guess that's what I want to communicate with this guy, is that there are hundreds of plugins, some of them paid, some of them free, that as long as you know the basics of After Effects, you can then kind of leverage, change the colors, do and put your own data in your own font, and really take control of it, but make it really quick. Okay? And there was that, and there was one other thing. That's it. Who wants to do some questions? Pick me one. Such a good trainer. No questions after all. We're really get started. Let's talk about pay. It pays a little bit more than, like, say, I'm kind of basing it on my kind of like freelance getting stuff done. I can charge people probably another 25% to do motion graphics, not a huge amount. At the moment, things like user experience design, something I can charge double what I'm doing. It's kind of a cool little thing. Okay? But in terms of getting a job, say you want work in it, you have to have a show reel. It's like a lot of creative skills where it doesn't matter if you've done a degree or a diploma or a certificate, it's about what you can do. So for you, what you're going to have to do, and this is the hardest bit for everybody getting started with this, is you're going to have to create a show reel, and you're going to have no clients because it's kind of like chicken and egg, right? So what you do is you go through, have a look on YouTube for good stuff, and what you're looking for is a good mix. What you want to do is make a show reel that will get you the job that you want. If you want to get into infographics, don't do cool special effects, laser beams coming out of my hand stuff, because you can do that in After Effects. But that's not the job you want. So build a show reel for the kinds of work you want to get. I hire people all the time for things like motion graphics, to help out with things, and I hire them based on what I've seen in their portfolio. Often I'll say, do that again. It's not very, they really want me to go, I want you to do this project, let's go away, talk about it for 6 months. But really, I go like, hey, Dave, on Upwork, I've seen you've done that thing, do it again with this logo. Okay? So make sure your show reel is the stuff you want to be doing. Don't do it all, just do the stuff you want to be doing. Okay? So show reel is king. In terms of getting work, things like Upwork, if you've never used it, Upwork and Fiverr. I know you might be laughing at Fiverr, but it's a great way to get actual work from actual brands. And like, say you end up charging them $20 for it. It's not the fact you're getting, you're at $20 for 5 hours work. Okay? It's the fact you've got a client with a brief to get some stuff done to stick into a show reel. Even if you're a senior creative, getting other people's briefs makes life a lot easier. Upwork is better. Upwork you can get bigger contracts. Okay? You might have to have a basic show reel, and you can put that on there and say, this is the kind of work I'm looking for, this is my hourly rate, and people will come to you and say, I'd like you to do this or bid on this job. Okay? And it's a way of just getting kind of, you can't live on Upwork. Okay? There's too many countries paying a lot less in terms of hourly rates to live on, but it's really great for you all want to go and just get a few jobs or getting stuff together. Could be one question, I'll let you go. So expressions is, say, all the layers that we had there before, we're doing quite manual stuff. Where we click keyframe, we say you, okay, and we say you be here at this position, the scale is this position. So expressions is a way of doing that via code. You can do the exact same thing, but via programming. So if you're more a developer, okay, After Effects, say for me, I can take After Effects to maybe 70% potential. Because I can't, expressions is something I can copy and paste, but I don't develop and make myself. I find other people's and I use them. So I can use it to a really good degree, but somebody that would be better than me, okay, would need, understanding of expression. It literally is using code to kind of create the exact same sorts of things. And that's what those plugins are doing. Somebody's made lovely expressions, pre-made it, put a view on in front of it, to make it useful for people like me who's more of a designer. Do you have a specific question, or is that? So, say what happens is, I've commissioned a couple of plugins before where we're doing the same, like when I talked about the crappy job, I don't want to be doing the stupid infographics anymore. It's something enough in the company, we had enough, we knew it was going to be in every monthly newsletter for the next 2 years. So we commissioned a plugin campaign. And all it was actually at the beginning was just an expression. Okay? And all it was a bit of code that we dumped into the layers and it made it work for us. Then after a while, it still meant that I had to still do it because the kids kind of had a good understanding of After Effects with these expressions. And then what we did is he suggested, the guy who made it said, how about I turn it into a player? And all he did is put a UI on it, so we could just kind of like add some data and for it. So expressions are about core stuff, you pack it away, then plugins are built on top of that to help people like me. You're allowed to go, all right. Hey, one thing is I'm Dan. Dan loves Adobe on Twitter. Okay. Facebook, you'll find me, Daniel Walter Scott, pretty long name. But ask a question if you're like, oh, I want to ask a question, but not in front of people. Okay. Ask a question after this. I'm around all day as well. I'll be wandering around the back there. Later on, I'm doing animation for web. It's HTML banner ads at. Have a look at my next course. I think it's 3:30 or something, but it's more web-based animation.
So the afternoon is, what does HTML mean?
Web-based.
So your afternoon thing will
Yeah, web-based animation. Not as pretty, but it's specific for websites. I am indeed. Yeah.
Where else?
Awesome.
Been here long?
A year.
Oh, just a year?
Yeah. I'm actually in Ireland, so I came over for this today. But,
How are you? Whereabouts in Ireland?
I'm in Kildare, so I'm in Maynooth. Outside of Dublin.
That's funny. Well, I was living in Kerry a lot, so I was in
okay.
Auckland and Wellington.
Oh, cool.
It's good to hear the accent. Take it easy.
Thank you.
Some fish and chips, maybe.
You haven't mentioned the use of video, so you import your video file within After Effects.
Totally can, but it's more for like special effects, I guess. Then you can, like, I
Because
guess.
generally, like, you know, if you do like short videos for Facebook and things like that, you can add like text on top of the videos.
Yeah, exactly. So more of that, like, if I had to label that, it's more like titling. I was trying to keep more to motion graphics. You're very welcome. But yeah, it's totally done in After Effects. Total
But
sliding
then
in.
how do you time? So you, if you need to do your cut, you do your cut in Premiere, then you import it. So then if you finally when you add your text, maybe I need my video shorter or need to do a cut, you need to go back to Premiere.
What you tend to do is you'll have them both open at the same time,
Okay.
and because they are live connections, you adjust one in After Effects, it instantly up. You don't have to re-import it. It's not as disconnected as you might think. It's like it's totally easy to be working on one and the other one, and they just kind of match up. Yeah. I'd love to go through more, but yeah. Time. But yeah, totally. If you're motion graphics, it does really cool stuff when you start like following stuff. So you can type in things to follow live action. It's really cool. You know that's really cool. It takes a long time to physically do in front of everyone, but yeah. Drop me a line then, and I'll show you some of the stuff some of the other stuff I've done. It's longer and it's online and
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about like taking it into Premiere. Like, it's really simple just to take something you've done in After Effects.
Literally file import and
And it will just.
if you don't put a white block, like remember I drew that white solid behind it, that will cover up things behind it.
Yeah.
So if you make a new composition, you start like doing the type like the first animation I do, that black's actually invisible. So just kind of you just dump it into Premiere.
And it will just be over it,
It's really, and the cool thing about it is if the machine can handle it, you've got both of them open, you're adjusting one.
And it will update.
So you just bring in the file early, keep adjusting, keep playing in Premiere, adjusting Premiere, and it does. It's a nice little fluid.
No, that was really good. So I've only done stuff, so I've done like intros in After Effects, but then I've always exported them. And then
just file
just
import.
plonked them at the beginning. Like not,
they
It'd be really nice to
overlay.
do where you can overlay it.
Yeah, because that's it. If you render it, you end up with a solid background, and you have to kind of keep it to its own little
Yeah, it's
room.
just like a
Yeah.
thing. Okay, cool.
You said you use Illustrator a lot. Yes. I was having issues with is it dynamic linking? Do you do that all the time?
Yes. So it's coming up with the dynamic links failing.
They just weren't.
That's actually more to do with being on the internet. Like it's a weird online thing that you need to help out. And when it's offline, it doesn't use the dynamic link. When it's online, it does. When you're online, you've got a crappy connection. It's worse than being offline.
Okay.
So turn thing with Illustrator, I'm not sure how much you know, but like check this out. If you, the big thing with it is that, see this option here, this bit here?
Yeah.
That by default, if I bring in anything into After Effects from Illustrator, it's on kind of like a low res version.
Right.
So what you need to do is make sure that it's on that by normal. So if you turn that on, it's going to go full crispy quality. Otherwise, it's going to be a little blurry around the edges.
Right. Okay.
And the other thing is, see the sun here?
Yeah.
With that off, if you scale it up, it pixelates from Illustrator. If you turn that on, when it scales up, it redraws it at every frame. The only trouble is that when you have that on and you're trying to scale stuff, After Effects goes a bit, it's pretty tough for it to do.
Right.
So what people do is they'll turn that off while they're working, and it gets all pixelated, but when they export, they'll turn it back on. But people miss it all the time. I see renders where that's been off, the Illustrator thing starts as small because that's the way you imported it, and you made it nice and big, but it just pixelated the crap because they haven't either forgot to turn it on at all, or turned it off because it was slowing the machine down and turned it back on.
I'm really bad because I'm completely new to After Effects,
Yeah.
but I've used a day on it.
Yeah.
But I've used Illustrator quite a lot. So if I was scaling something massive, I'd probably bring it in tiny in Illustrator, do it massive in Illustrator.
That will work. That'll get you around all of that. And the thing you still need to remember is by default, it'll try and do that.
Yeah.
It's mainly because Vector in After Effects is still stressful for it, so they don't want you to kind of like import it and it right into the ground.
Yeah.
They want to kind of import it, go fast, but there's no button that when you export to say, hey, you should probably turn that on.
Yeah.
Okay. Make it look prettier.
Cool. Nice one. Thanks.
Cool, man.
Appreciate that.